So for today's episode, I'm going to actually hit you up with my top 5 real estate predictions for 2022 as it actually relates to the GTA real estate market. Please be sure to watch until the end because I'm going to actually share with you my biggest, my boldest, and my most wild prediction yet. But first, let's recap on what's gone on in the real estate market for 2021. It's another kick at the can, really, because we've kicked this can around a little bit too much in 2021. It really was not a typical year. The year has put us into a wild tailspin, to say the least. We actually ended the 2021 year with a very hot market and ultra low inventory. There were huge bidding wars throughout the year, sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50 offers on the table at once, especially for low rise, detached, and the freehold market segments. So, the market seemed to calm down a little bit or stabilize somewhat around mid-year when we actually saw more inventory hit the market. But since the fall, we actually saw that the inventory has dried up. And this is relatively speaking because whatever came out, it was gobbled up very quickly. So now in 2022, we're back to the same scenario. Low inventory and multiple offers. So what do you think is going to happen for 2022? Will real estate prices continue to rise about 20% this year? Will prices level off? Will we finally see prices decline? Will the real estate market bubble pop? Will the market crash? Well, let's find out. But first, show reel, hit it. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It only takes 1 second and it really helps with my YouTube algorithm. My top 5 real estate predictions for 2022. Prediction number 1, the market will not crash. And no, if you were expecting this year to be the year of bubble popping or the market crashing and prices in Toronto come tumbling down, I'm sorry, my friends, your dreams are not going to come to fruition this year. The market will not crash and the bubble will not burst. And that's my strong prediction for this year. Even if the prices did drop 20%, say, that would put us back to where the homes were selling back in February of 2021. So with that, we wouldn't see the market crash or the bubble burst in 2022. So we're ready to burst your bubble on this one. Prediction number 2, the number of home sales will actually decrease in 2022. We've talked an awful lot about low inventory in 2021, and this was all relative when I talk about low inventory to what was going on in the market. There was a real supply and demand issue, and it really depended on how fast things were being gobbled up. And despite the relative low inventory, there was actually a record of 121,712 sales in 2021. And that was up from 28% from the year before. In fact, the Canadian Real Estate Association predicted in a quarterly forecast that sales would actually fall 12.1%. So you may be saying to yourself, this might be a little bit ambitious, but I think what will happen is this will have a real ripple effect and we will see a decrease in sales, but I'm going to predict about 5 to 7% across the GTA. So we'll see what happens. And I think the real push for this will be the lack of supply and also the higher home prices. And the reason I believe that the drop in sales will be modest at only 5 to 7% is because I really feel that the inter and intra-provincial migration that we've seen throughout 2021 will actually continue this year. And in fact, I think that the COVID-related changes, it'll result in a lot of people moving around in the years ahead. And in fact, we actually will see more immigration as well. And this has already really fueled the anxiety of the average buyer. So one thing I feel very strongly about is that the quantity of listings will continue to determine the sales based on what's available for homeowners to buy. The fact is, I think there'll be a number of buyers that will actually leave the buying pool this year. And we'll continue to see the low inventory, which will result in less sales. Okay, on to prediction number 3. We'll definitely start to see an increase in home prices over the course of the year. So if you're a hopeful buyer looking for a lower priced home or lower home values in the foreseeable future, don't hold your breath. I actually predict that home prices in the GTA will actually increase between 10 to 12%. And that would actually mean that the average home price is about $1.25 million. This is my prediction by the end of 2022. I also predict that many more buyers will continue to scope out and snatch up condos, and this is from an affordability point of view. I predict we're going to see an increase in condo prices of 13 to 50% across the GTA. I actually predict that condos and townhomes, which tend to be more affordable, will see this stark increase. I feel like these changes will actually be fueled by the fact that we have not come close to seeing that level of inventory required to keep the market steady or even satisfy buyer demand. So for instance, to give you an example, in a balanced market, we actually tend to see at least a 4-month supply of inventory. So another problem is with huge delays in construction, this is actually causing a stopgap of different types of properties coming in onto the market. And with immigration slated for the GTA and shifts in buyer preferences, as well as, relatively low interest rates for now, even with a slight adjustment in the interest rates of 3 or 4 times they're predicting this year, I don't think this is going to have a huge impact in itself on the real estate market. So for now, with all these factors I spoke about, this is definitely a recipe for, wait for it, yes, you guessed it, a rise in home prices. Prediction number 4, we all know that mortgage interest rates are going to increase. So it's not really fair for that to be a prediction. But what I do think is that this is leading to the early flurry of activity that we have started to see. This is the flurry of activity in anticipation of these hikes. Now, I'm not convinced that these hikes are going to deter some key groups, but what I do predict is I predict that this will impact 2 or 3 major groups. First-time buyers for sure, those that are maybe in a condo and want to make a huge change to move to a house, and downsizers. Those are the 3 groups that I think will be very active this year in the real estate market. Okay, so for this year, I really think there'll be a standoff in the market between millennials and baby boomers. They'll be in full swing in the market. So let's just watch and see. Prediction number 5. We're already at prediction number 5. The rental rates are going up. They're going to rise. And this is great news if you're a landlord or an investor, of course, but it's not so great if you're a tenant. That's the last thing you want to hear. The rental market is actually likely to feel some of the pressure that we're creating with the resale market. I predict that a lot of these buyers are actually going to be off to the sidelines this year or opting out of the buyer market for this year. So I think that since people actually have to have a place to live, these buyers that would have normally been in the buyer market are being forced into the rental market for the year at least. So it's inevitable that that'll impact the rental market. So we're likely to see an increase in rental rates. And in fact, some rentals are actually seeing bidding wars already. So the competition is starting to get really tight in all segments of the market. Some renters are actually even offering a whole year of rent up front. That's the kind of pressure we're seeing. A couple other trends or predictions I'm going to talk about is that there's a real trend of strong seller's market is going to continue, at least in the next few months. We've really seen the real estate market sector adapt very well during the pandemic. And, people have really learned a lot about how to conduct businesses very safely throughout the whole pandemic. Buyers and sellers also have a very good idea of what to expect if we ever did have to go into a lockdown again. And many will actually feel much more confident fulfilling their plans, even if the current market conditions do change, because we're ready for these changes. Now, one major upcoming shift that buyers should really look out for is the change in mortgage affordability. As I mentioned previously, the Bank of Canada will be raising its rates, so it's really worth it to keep in mind if you're planning a purchase. And in past episodes, I've talked about how the Liberal Party has actually plans for improving housing affordability. You know, its platform includes loans and grants for rent-to-own programs, include plans for tax-free savings accounts for first-time buyers, and also an increase of the insured mortgage cutoff from 1 million to 1.25 million, among many other developments. So if you do plan to buy or sell, you'll really want to stay on top of some of these potential changes that will be occurring in the market. As I mentioned, the current market remains very hot because of low relative inventory and because of supply and demand issues. This is being compounded with the anticipated increase in interest rates, and that's right around the corner as people want to take advantage of the low interest rates. So moving forward, supply will be a good metric to watch for in this market. I really think that we'll see the real estate market settle down sometime around the summer months when people are on vacation and more relaxed. And so it'll be a little bit slower and more steady. And I predict that this is going to be followed by a very strong fall. So inventory, as I said, will remain tight, and it's going to fuel these prices with this anticipated climb in mortgage rates, which is going to happen several times this year, as I mentioned. So for those fence sitters, I think it's going to cause them, or it's starting to cause them, to rush into the market. So be sure and don't miss that boat. This flurry of activity will cause prices to rise. So if you are an anxious fence sitter, just join the rest of the crowd and get out there, as there's no better time to buy. I will tell you that as a buyer, I want to stress the fact that you're probably going to have to really broaden your search area and also possibly lessen your criteria in order to find the right house for yourself. So from my perspective, I'm very confident that we will continue to see the real estate market and real estate industry looking very positive for 2022. I will tell you that the market will continue to rise. There may be less inventory, but sales will be steady. So with everything on the horizon and everything we've talked about, the low inventory and low relative inventory and the highest rate of inflation, interest rates are about to increase, and you know there's never been a better time to invest in this market. Consider this a public service announcement. This is the very moment you should get into the market. Now, for my boldest and best prediction ever, J.Lo and Ben are back together, as you probably know, and they have been since the spring of 2021. Now, you know, I have my prediction on whether this is going to last, or, you know, I'd like to be hopeful with Valentine's just around the corner. But, you know, guys, leave your comments below and let me know what your thoughts are. Until next time, if you're thinking of getting into this great market, do so as soon as possible. Like I said, if you're thinking of moving to Toronto or the GTA or within Toronto, make sure you contact us on your favorite social media platform. We've always got your back, and we've always got you covered. This is Pamela Haines from Homes by Pam, helping you with your real estate matters.